Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the chairman and the director and the faculty for inviting me here today. And IMC has been a very deeply connected in a lot of ways with HCL. When we founded HCL in 1976, we decided that we must have some top students from an institute, and we selected IIM Calcutta at that time. And when we came here for our presentation to students, they all felt that we were starting on the right track. We were going to make computers in India for the first time. But at the end of our presentation, lots of students got up and said, "Looks very exciting, but very risky for us to join you." Because those days there was nothing called startups. And we were a startup. So our answer to that was, we are not offering you a job. We are offering you adventure. And so 5 students from IIM Calcutta joined us. And that became our first marketing and strategy organization for the country. I'm also still in touch with all 5 of them. Unfortunately, we lost one. And later on, another one joined, who became the 6th one, all from the 13th batch of 1976. So when we celebrated 25 years of HCL, I invited all of them to come to Delhi, and we recognized all of them as being the first batch of HCL. So let me now talk about what I had planned to talk about, and that is the country is now at a very different situation than where it was 20, 25 years ago. We've done very well as a country, and we have really grown some of our areas brilliantly. For example, our software exports have now grown up to close to $300 billion. Just imagine if we didn't have software exports, where we would be in terms of foreign exchange. So I think tremendous contribution from the software industry. And the most amazing part of the software industry is that 99% of the companies were firstborn. That's all the Indian companies I'm talking about. So they didn't come from any existing corporation, except 1 or 2. Most of them created by entrepreneurs. But now the situation is changing. And as the director says, it's a very different world today. And we now, as a country, need to think very hard about where we should go from here in the next 20, 25 years. Should we continue to do more of what we have been doing? Or should we think of a new direction for ourselves? And how we can shape the new economy of this country in a different way. So let me elaborate. Fundamentally, the way I look at it is that India risks growing old before becoming rich. We are stuck in the middle income trap. A lot of countries have gone through that. Look at Korea, look at China, look at Thailand. A lot of them went through this middle income trap. But we are still way below in terms of GDP per person, as when you compare it with South Korea, China, Thailand. Thailand is another interesting example. It grew extremely well and has a much better GDP per person than us, but it's not stalling. Why is it stalling? And that's really what we should think as to what should we do to take it forward. So what's really happening is that jobs and automation are getting connected. And as a result, we need to create new jobs. And we need to compensate for jobs that are being lost. AI is making its appearance in a very big way. It is going to have a huge influence on many of the service industries, including the software industry, which we are very proud of. But if you look at BPO, Do you really need call center agents anymore? If you look at software, do you need to do programming anymore? So a lot of these things are getting replaced by automation and AI. And there is another very important factor that we need to look at. I call it the China factor. Given our over-reliance on China for capital goods, we need new strategies to power our growth. We cannot just depend on China. So what's been our journey till now? Literally, job work has been our bread and butter. What do I mean by job work? Basically, services. So if we look at the 1991 reforms, it gave us physical infrastructure, it gave us telecom infrastructure, and it has given us digital infrastructure. But we are all majorly in the services business. Look at airlines, look at the textile industry, pharmaceuticals. We are really doing low-end work. We are not at the higher end of the work. If you look at telecom services, you look at diamond cutting industry, all low value addition, all services orientation. But this job work that we have been doing is seriously at risk. And as I said, headwinds are there for it because digitization and AI are going to change everything, and this has to lead to a new method of value capture. What should we do? And therefore, what should we now look at? So literally the way we look at it, and we've created a small think tank, and we've created what I'm telling you today. So the right structure typically results from unseen markets. So if you see unseen markets in India, if you look at garment export, for example, where is the value capture? Is it in making garments, or is it in making the industrial sewing machines? So the high end of the value is in industrial sewing machines. The low end of the value is in garment exports. So that's where we are stuck in everything we are doing, except maybe some services like software, etc., and engineering R&D exports. So where do we need to go? We need to move from textiles to industrial sewing machines. That's where the value addition is. We don't make any diamond cutting machines. All the value addition is in China, not in India. And so on. So if we look at literally every part of what we are doing today, we are at the low end of the value chain. Electronics, there's huge talk about being the second largest phone manufacturing country in the world. But what are we really doing here? If you look at Apple, we look at all the EMS companies, electronic manufacturing services company, we are at 5%, 8%, 10% value addition. We are pretty much doing screwdriver technology. So this is something that we need to change. And we need to literally move from being an airlines country to being an aircraft country. We should make our own aircrafts. That's really where we should be. We can't just stay at basic electronics. We have to make electronic chips, semiconductor chips also. So from telecom services, we need to move to telecom products. And there's tremendous opportunity to do so. So let me elaborate. The Soviet model in the 1930s was created around the Academy of Sciences. And it was the top institution from 1925 to 1991. But what is the model the United States followed? The United States followed what I call the Whenever Bush model. Whenever Bush was the chief scientist in 1945. And in 1945, he wrote a manifesto where he says, if America has to succeed, it has to succeed on the basis of science and technology. So this amazing manifesto, you can Google it and find it, resulted in a complete change in America, where DARPA got set up, the Defense Organization, NSA got set up, NASA got set up, and all of this resulted in Silicon Valley happening. And that is the leadership position that America today occupies. And parallel to that, during that period, America made tuition free for foreign students. So they could get them to come to the United States, stay there and work there. And that's how they created the manpower as well. Now, what is the course correction we have to do to get to being a developed country? Our model has to move away from that good old Soviet model. We created a lot of research institutions in the country which are government run. But the results are really not to be seen. If you look at the CSIR budget today, I think maybe 5,000, 6,000 crores. Inside that, only 400 crores is available for R&D. The rest is all salaries. So what have we delivered through our existing scientific research model? It's very limited. And therefore, we now need to think differently. So what should we do? The old model of innovation has not delivered. We need to now create a completely new model. And therefore, few breakthroughs in India have created some amazing innovations. One innovation is the digital public infrastructure. We have the world's best. When I used to walk into a drawing room conversation 10, 15 years ago, everyone used to ask me, hey, you guys are running software and hardware, but why don't we have a Microsoft and Google or any of these companies in India? Why don't we have products like that? Today we have. So we have a DPI product, which is world beater. In addition to that, there are 3 other bright spots in what we have done. They're all fundamentally based on doing research in India, creating products in India, and that is where we have been successful. So the second example of it is the 4G, 5G stack that was created by a company called Tejas in Bangalore, which was later on bought over by Tatas. And recently, the government decided to offer, given them a 13,000 crore order for laying out all of 4G for BSNL and later on 5G. So these are all interesting things that have happened in India. Another one which everybody knows about is the vaccine. We created Covaxin in India in 8 months flat, right? Although WHO tried to put us down in many ways and didn't accept it, but Indians accepted it. And then fourth recent one is the Vande Bharat train. I actually happened to watch the presentation of the chief engineer of ICF, and he said that without any technology transfer, without any joint venture, we have created this product ground up. And today, a Vande Bharat train has only 4% imported content. All right, so we can see these great examples in front of us. We now need to take these 4 examples ahead in much bigger way, scale it. And therefore, we now need to sort of do something totally different. We have not done R&D in private sector at all. It's a very poor state of affairs. So we now need to move towards R&D-led innovation and development in the country. This should not be alone in the government sector. It has to be in the private sector. So if you look at the model which was created by Vannevar Bush in the United States, they encouraged private companies to create products. So DARPA created many products of its own because of what they were doing. They were challenging various corporates. They were saying, build this product. If you build this product, we will buy this product from you. And we will give you money to build this product. That is the model that was created. The public money went into private R&D funding. And this is something that is very much alive even today. Even today, Elon Musk's company gets funding from the United States government for technology and development. Apple has created many products of its together with funding from the federal government and universities working together with Apple. So this is the model that we now need to look at for India. We need to put public money into private. And also, we now need to very seriously think about the change that we have to make from services to being a product nation. If we remain in services, we will stall. That's what's happened to Thailand. Thailand was growing like crazy, and now their whole growth has stalled. We now need to take the R&D and product route for this country, away from that reliance just on services. I'm not saying stop services. I'm saying increase R&D, increase product development, find areas where we can be pretty much number one, number two, number three in the world. Find areas where the market size is $200 billion and more, and look at not just India, but create products in India for the world. I think that is the right direction for the country to take, so that we will be at the higher value end of anything that we do, rather than the just screwdriver technology or the low end of the manufacturing that we are doing today. So literally, Make in India has to move from design and from just Make in India to design and Make in India. If you look at the highest value capture is where brands get created, designs get created, and the rest happens elsewhere. So if an Apple phone costs $1,500, the majority of the value addition and IP sits in the United States, not in China or India. We just get a very small piece of the $1,500. So where do we need to go? Today we've had some great process innovation in the country. People like Indigo, people like Airtel, people like Sun Pharmaceuticals have done tremendous amount of process innovation and improved processes. We need to now go towards combinational innovation and deep innovation. That's really the direction we have to take. And we have to create moats around what we do. So that is the area that we believe is required. Now, if you look at what is happening today in the country, many new areas have opened up for us to take a leadership position. But we just don't need to look at sunrise sectors. We should look at large sectors and mature sectors where you can create our own technology. We can't just remain dependent on China. Our dependence on China is too much today. And that is something that we have to go and change. So this whole model needs to be, as I said, run by the private sector with funding from the government. We need to focus on ecosystems, and we need to focus on commercialization and IP being created in India. And that's where we should go. In Japan, there are completely different models that have been created. These models are called focused research organizations, where industry and government and academia come together, look at a specific product area, and then create products in that area. So if you look at pick up any phone, you will find the optics, everything in optics is from Japan. So it was created in these focused research organizations that were sort of created in Japan. And therefore, when we started to look at where we should put our money, where should we invest, what should we do, we sort of started looking at about 10 to 12 or 14 areas where we should put our R&D resources and create products for India and the world. And these kind of areas are areas like artificial intelligence, semiconductors, two-wheeler EVs, space tech, and we've forgotten nuclear in this country. We have only worked on large nuclear plants. Today, that whole game has changed. We now need to work at MMR level, the module-based reactors. So we need to change the way we need to work. Similarly in fintech, similarly in genetics, if we want to look at drones, we want to look at a whole bunch of new areas. And what we should do is that there's a lot of startup interest that is there in most of these areas. We need to fund startups. We need to put government money on startups. We need to create products for India and then create it, send it to the world, so that our ratio of services to commodities completely changes. This will take 10, 15, 20 years. It's not going to happen overnight. But if we start working on it today, it will happen. And what we need to do, therefore, is to get government to invest into private sector. So this whole idea, which we created, a bunch of us, about 15, 20 of us sat down and created a think tank, and we started working and thinking on this. We said, this is what we need to take to the government. And we need to achieve circle of 5 in the next 15, 20 years. That is, we must create organizations and companies which can be among the top 5 in the world. And if we work towards that, we can make it happen. And that is where we should put all our resources rather than just keep looking at services. Services will take care of itself. There's so much concern all over the world in terms of aging populations in different countries. There's enough Indians out here to go and work there. So there is, I don't think, any issue about services at all. We will have large opportunities happening. But we also need to develop ecosystems. What are these ecosystems? If you look at what happened in China, they decided they're going to make Huawei a global company. That was decided 20 years ago, right? They have made Huawei today a global company. It's equal to Nokia, Ericsson, and Samsung. And in typical telecom language, we call it HENS, which is Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia, and Samsung. Today, we have an opportunity to change HENS to TENS, because we now have this 4G, 5G capability by which we can replace Huawei all over the world. Reason is that nobody trusts China. The United States wants to rip out all the Chinese products and replace it with trusted products. Who's got the opportunity today? Tata's with Tejas, Ericsson, Nokia, and Samsung. So maybe in 10 years, we will have a TENS rather than HENS. This is really what we should be doing. We should be creating these large private companies that can actually take on the world. And what should we do is that we should put money from the government into private sector and also give the private sector and startup business from the government, which is exactly what China did for Huawei. Every telecom bid was given to Huawei. What has China done today? In every government office, no foreign PC is allowed. So they actually have given all their demand to their own companies to get them to scale, and we call it demand aggregation. This is something that various central government and state governments should do. We should have export focus. We should have really global competitiveness. We should look at development of core engines, like what we did with digital public infrastructure. And as I said, R&D focus is absolutely essential. And we need to change the regulation structure of this country. The regulation in this country is completely cholesterol today. It's really, really bad. It actually inhibits innovation. And lastly, branding of Indian products has to be done. If you look at Israel, they've done fantastic job of branding. Similarly, South Korea has done fantastic job of branding. That is something that we also need to do. And we need to create newer models of funding. Lots of startups get going, they get Series A, they get Series B, but before that, they don't get enough money. And that is where a lot of companies flounder and not succeed. When the Department of Defense, which is called IDEX, gives a 8 crore order to a startup, this is fantastic. And they give them money to actually make the product. But they also say, give me $8 crore of BG. when they give the order. So how is a startup going to get a BG of 8 crores? It's not going to work. So these are the kind of regulations and rules we need to change and actually make things which are much easier and faster. So this is the kind of template that I believe is required for the country, and we must ensure that we walk a different road now. In the next 20 years, we need to convert India to be a product nation. Why should we do that? There's more reasons than one. One reason is that we need to change because we need to do more innovation. And number two, you look at the opportunity that is staring at us today. When 10 years ago, China plus one became an interesting subject, Vietnam moved very fast and became China plus one. India got left behind. We are now doing a catch-up on various products and manufacturing in India, but we are still, look at the exports from China, from Vietnam. Vietnam exports are $120 billion today. Where are we sitting? We are sitting at 50. So, this is the kind of change we need to think in terms of making India a product nation. And we now need to also have various state governments in the country not do what we have been doing till yesterday. Till yesterday, everybody was wanting to set up software companies, BPO companies, GCC. All of that is all you hear from different states. That is old hat. We now need to move towards a completely different model to change the economy the way it is and get out of this middle income trap. Otherwise, we'll just continue to stay there and it won't become a developed country. And therefore, we actually have had a discussion with central government on many times. And during this budget, we managed to get 1 lakh crore of money put aside for R&D support to private sector. So this is something that the government has agreed to do. And that's a very positive move made by the government. So that is the direction that I feel as a country and each state needs to take. I met the state government of West Bengal yesterday. And they were saying we should set up semiconductor plants here. I mean, why do you want to set up a semiconductor plant in West Bengal? What will you get out of it? Already 8 or 10 are getting set up in different parts of the country, and all of them will be at the lower end of the value chain. The real value sits in design and designing products in India. If you look at just West Bengal alone, there are a large number of designers here. When I look at quantum technology, which I am very much part of, 50% of the scientists of quantum are from Bengal. So it's really what we should be doing. We should be using a mind to create an industry. And that is our best strength in the world. Globally, everybody recognizes the Indian mind. So I think this is really what I think we should be doing as we go forward. Look at creating a completely new India. Look at making products in India. And can you just imagine something very interesting has happened after Trump took over? Trump's election shows that moment he gets into saddle, he's going to put 60% duties on every Chinese product that is imported into America. 20% duty will be put on every other country. But India will have a 40% advantage of price over China. Because 60% is what they will charge for Chinese products. Indian products will draw 20%, 40% benefit. We need to look at that as a huge opportunity. And therefore, it's not going to happen overnight, but we need to start yesterday. If we have a fab in this country, where are the electronic product companies and chip companies that are existing in India? They will be the customers. Samsung is not going to buy a chip from India. Apple is not going to buy a chip from India. It's the Indian companies that will buy. And that is what ecosystem that needs to be created. Thank you.